Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use and is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 U.S.C. 107. I'm going to start by just going ahead and playing the two clips that we're going to discuss tonight. I know a lot of people have seen these, but some may not have. So let's start with the original clip of LaVar and his egregious, apparently, behavior toward this woman, Molly, and whatever her last name is. Y'all, I can try to pronounce it if I wanted to.
LaVar, can I switch gears with you because I have a question here? Switch gears with me anytime. Let's stay focused here. All right. Can you please explain to me what the LaVar? Can I switch gears with you because I have a question here? Switch gears with me anytime. Let's stay focused here. All right. Can you please explain to me what the?
So I just want to look at his face.
Let's stay focused here.
Look at his face and his face. Women, apparently men are afraid of us. You can't even talk to women anymore.
Can you please explain to me what the LaVar? Can I switch gears with you because I have a question here? Switch gears with me anytime. Let's stay focused here. All right.
Okay. That was the original clip, and this is what TMZ has with her finally, I guess, speaking out on this. So let me go ahead and play that as well.
Applaud you on how professional you were and how you handled everything yesterday following the inappropriate comments. I wanted to know if has any of the ball family members actually reached out to LaVar? Reached out to you at all to personally apologize?
Oh, there's so much latency on TMZ's site.
I haven't heard from anybody, but to be honest with you, I shut my phone off after work, so I was just in chill mode.
Okay. Do you think LaVar's going to be invited back on the show anytime soon? Should ESPN just stop giving this guy airtime at this point, or?
I have no idea. Those decisions are above my pay grade.
Okay. Can I just ask how Jalen has handled the situation? Does he have a message for LaVar at all? Do you have a message for LaVar?
I think Jalen would have just liked if he had apologized to me publicly.
Okay. ESPN obviously had your back and said he was completely appropriate and let them be aware of that. Do you think that they should do anything further at this point, or are you satisfied with the outcome?
No, I'm satisfied. Yeah, 100%. ESPN was really supportive, and I appreciate it. All the executives had my back, so
okay.
Much appreciated.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Have a great day.
Okay. So take it away, baby. What are your thoughts?
So I saw it live.
Oh, you saw it live?
Yeah. So I think it was Monday or Tuesday when it aired. I've forgotten the exact day. And when I saw it, I was like, what's the big deal? I mean, I even think he did a motion like a gear shifting. You know, I don't think his voice changed to a inappropriate type of, and I'm not caping for LaVar Ball. I mean, I'm not a fan. I'm not a hater of him either, but I really just don't see anything. And I had a conversation with some of my my brothers, on Facebook, and they said, "Oh no, that was really inappropriate." I'm just like,
really? Why? But why was it inappropriate? What?
I don't know. I don't think it was inappropriate at all. Now, has LaVar Ball been inappropriate as far as his conduct, or his just gregarious nature, and just being kind of, you know, um, just an irritant, and just a know-it-all and everything, in a way he comes across as being the smartest person on the planet. Yeah, I mean, definitely you get irritated, by the fact that he does a lot of bloviating, right? But in this particular instance, I didn't see anything that was just malicious or inappropriate or just untoward towards women. I just didn't see that.
I
And
don't even think he was really hitting on her. Like I tried, like I had to really reach in my mind to be like, what could this have been talking about? Like, could the switch shifts, like stick shift, like penis? Like, I don't know. I was trying to like connect dots and lines and stuff, but I just didn't really see it. It's worth saying though, y'all, that he said it, she glossed over it, and then at the end of the show, I don't know if you saw that, but this is what's being reported. She was like, somebody, I know I'm going to have a talk with HR. I feel like ESPN had no choice when she said that, but to bar him from, because he's barred from all of their networks, all of their programming. He can't be on anything on ESPN anymore. She basically deaded his ESPN career.
yeah, yeah, I mean that. So that part is problematic, but to me, I take it a step further because I research black males. I look at the major and the overall implication of this. And so when black males have this false narrative, right? These tropes, these axioms associated with them as being hypersexualized, hyper vigilant, all these negative hyper, adjectives that are placed on them, right? Having this hyper agency, and the myth of the black male rapist. These types of things don't help that narrative. And again, I'm not caping for LaVar Ball, but I'm just saying, let's look at the bigger picture here. So in that same network, Stephen A. Smith, who kind of looked at LaVar, and again, I think the reason
What
why
was he doing with that look?
I think this is why Stephen A., in my opinion, looked at LaVar Ball that way. First and foremost, we're in the We Too movement, right? And so that movement, again, I'm not going to lambaste it, because I think it has done a lot more harm than good. So you're supposed to be protecting women who've been victims of rape and everything. But at the same time, you're not looking at, males. Because, of course, in this society, males can never be raped, which is an egregious in itself, right? But going back to Stephen A. Smith, when Ray Rice, I don't know if you're familiar with that incident, when he struck his wife in the elevator, right? And Stephen A. Smith said, "Hey, we have to consider, provocation, right?" Now he never justified Ray Rice's actions in hitting his wife the way he did. He never once said that. He said we have to look into provocation. And when he said that, I forget the white woman, or I mean, he caught hell. He even got suspended, right, for suggesting that there could have been provocation.
I actually think that is more like way more serious of a comment to make. I can understand people being upset about that. I can't understand anybody being upset about this though. That's just really dumb.
But I mean, again, we know provocation happens, right? Again, if we can have the honest dialogue about, again,
but words can't provoke you to put your hands on somebody. That's just you
no.
put your hands on somebody.
But again, it wasn't words. He's saying we don't know.
Right.
He was asked the question. We don't know what was the provocation. And again, once we roll the tape back, she was spitting on him, scratching him, and everything. Again, I'm still not caping for him cold cocking her, right? Because he knocked her out. That was crazy. But again,
she's not a man, so that's.
And again, I'm not excusing the fact. Again, we know women hit way more and men hit much harder. All right, I mean, that's just the reality. That's just the nature of the beast. But again, we can't say that, and I'm not condoning that behavior, but again, we have to look at those situations when women are hitting and cutting and biting and doing those type of things. And yes, for the most part, I think I can't speak for most men, but I think there's a lot of walking away and trying to get away from that situation when and if possible. But again, I think there was some alcohol involved in that situation. But again, I think Stephen A. Smith was on high alert because he was checked in that regard. And I again,
True.
I don't think no, because he got in trouble. I mean, when you say something,
yeah, but that was a dumb thing to say on national TV. Now a man can't co-cock a woman and then you try to talk about some provocation on national TV. That was stupid. But what LaVar Ball did was perfectly innocent. Like maybe he was flirting with her, babe, but like honestly, y'all, she's there to be eye candy. She is literally, what purpose does she serve? She is legitimately there because she is considered attractive. And so it would be different if it were a vulgar comment. Do you know what I mean? Like everybody knows, I think women and their bodies and even a hint of sexiness to a woman is perfectly fine. I find nothing wrong with that. But I do think that had the comment been overtly disrespectful, like, oh, your boobs are great, or, oh, you know what I mean? Look at that, whatever, or that would have been cause. But for him to just make a fairly innocuous comment and just state, you know, we could switch gears anytime. First of all, I just thought he was cheesy. Like, dude, you're never going to get any play like that. Like, you need some money because if that's what you've got going for you, nobody is going to find that that comment like attractive and, oh, I want to talk to you. You're so clever. That was like a really dumb comment.
Well, but the comment, like people are giving her, and again, I'm not hating on her either, right?
I'm hating on her. I'm a woman. I can hate on her. Well, that bitch did that on, I'm sorry. For part of my friend, she did that on purpose. She was pulling out a card she did not need to pull out on purpose.
Well, that's what I was going to allude to because, you know, a lot of people saying she handled it really well. And she was like, whoa, let's stick to the comments here. And my thing was, did it even need to be addressed? I mean, because again, I'm not a woman. I'm not in that situation, but I agree. Like you were saying, I don't think the comment was that egregious where there even needed to be a rebuttal. I mean, there even needed to be a response to that. You know, just like you just carry on with what you're saying. But again, to me, this is very dangerous because it still paints that overarching trope about, you know, especially about black males. Now, she is married to a black man. So let's just be honest.
That doesn't mean that she can't be racist.
But and I'm not saying she is or isn't. I'm not saying she's racist. I want to think that she isn't. Because again, her husband is doing some phenomenal things. And again, that's neither here nor there. But with that being said, it doesn't take away the racism that is within or constructed within the fabric of society. You know what I mean? I've seen players, and again, I know we're talking about LaVar Ball, but there was a former player that used to play with the Patriots and everything, and he was getting interviewed by a female reporter, and he said something extremely lewd and rude. He was like, something up, baby, or you want to... It was something that had, you know, definitely it was, you know, innuendos, sexual connotations, and everybody just kind of laughed. You know what I mean? It just laughed it off. And so, to me, when these things happen, even a lot of people in the black community, you know, just cape, you know, for this person, and they go against, you know, even Jamel Hill, who was a sister who was formerly on ESPN, was like, yeah, he shouldn't be on there, and I'm just like, I don't get it. I'm really, and most of the people I've spoken to outside of some of my friends who are black men, it was like, yeah, that's inappropriate. And they said, You know,
How was it inappropriate? Okay, wait. First of all,
but see, here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Well, baby,
I think they're disassociating. They don't like LaVar Ball, and so I'm like, okay, you don't have to like him.
Well, but you guys also work in a different setting, babe. So all the men you know work pretty much in the same sort of setting, as in like white collar kind of work, right? That is different. That is a sports show that is geared toward men, where at the sport there are scantily clad women jumping around on the sidelines as part of the game. Okay? This woman was put on there and basically allowed to wear clothes because they have to pretend like they take her serious. But she's really there to be attractive on a show that's geared toward men who enjoy sports, where men aggressively play against each other and women jump around half naked on the sideline. Like, straight up, that is the framework. This is not an office, a school, basically an office setting or school. Like, you know what I mean? This is not that kind of thing. This is like being on the construction site. This is like, a cheerleader getting mad because somebody wants her to wear a tight skirt. It's like you are on a sports show geared toward men, talking about sports where men almost brutalize each other and women jump around cheering them on half naked on the sideline. Him making that comment now, and this is my problem with this, is the fakery of it all. It's kind of like Trump's grab them in the pussy comment. It's like the fakeness of it all. That women throw themselves at rich men. There are women who behave that way. Nothing he said was wrong. She knows she's on a sports show. She knows she's there to look good and bring feminine energy to a show and eye candy to a show geared toward men who are watching sports, and that all the women who aren't playing sports, because there are very few female like sports teams. It's not big like men's sports like that. So when women are involved in the sports arena in general, they're there to be cute. This is just the reality. And
I'm not discounting that. I'm not discounting that. I'm not saying you're saying
respect, and they're trying. I'm sorry.
I'm not discounting that, and I'm not saying you are saying this. It doesn't allow anybody to be disrespectful to anyone. And I don't think that was the case here. So let's just be clear. Just because, there's a woman sitting in that seat doesn't mean, in a primarily a space where there's going to be men, doesn't mean that she has to be treated out of pocket, right? No one's saying that. And to me, and this isn't that an occur, but I've seen the show where, people may, they're flirted casually and everything. Those things happen. Like, you're right. If you're an attractive woman and you're going to be around men and vice versa, those things are going to happen.
Not in an office, it won't happen. It's very likely. And that kind of comment, I worked in an office with all men for like 12 years. I never had anything like that happen. But that's not an office. Do you know what I'm saying? She's on a sports show geared toward men.
Too. It happens. I mean, it happened in your situation, but it happens in an office too. But it's just, in this particular era, I think there's a hypersensitivity around just common banter around. Like you said, I'll switch gears with you any day. It's like, okay. I mean, I guess if you want to read that much into it, I guess you could say, okay.
That's what they're saying in the chat. Who said that? Which one of you guys said that? Somebody else said that too. Last Call TV said this whole situation is so sad. When she said, let's stay focused, that was clearly her making this a sexual thing.
There it is. Exactly. Because again, had she just not said anything and had, if he, extended the conversation with something else like room or something like, something that like, okay, bruh, you out of pocket. But again, that imagination is very dangerous. You know what I mean? Because now it's like everyone else, yeah, he was out of pocket. It's like, well, wait a minute, and so this is very scary, because when you have some white women could dream that a black man raped her, and that black man could go to jail because of those things, I mean, yeah, she could pick the makeup and have an entirely wrong black man in a lineup, and he served time. I mean, all these stories, real accounts that happen, and people don't understand this is very dangerous when these type of things happen. To me, is way bigger than these two individuals. This is a framing. This is a societal orientation and
Yes.
viewpoint of black men. And see, people are just looking at it with these two entities. It's bigger than that. And so when I convey this to people, people say, yeah, I understand your point, but I just don't like LaVar Ball. And so even, what happens to the least of these or the least of these that we like, it still doesn't make it right. You know what I mean? I don't like him anyway, so I don't care what happens to him. Yeah. Okay, so what if it was your son? People say, I didn't like him anyway. You'll have a different story, right? If it was your uncle or somebody like that.
Well, Vonda Harris really agrees with you on that because she said she was following the agenda and his silly behind fell into the trap. And I agree with that.
Say that again. Repeat that.
Vonda said that he was falling into the agenda and his silly behind fell into the trap because Dara Phil originally said she did her wannabe white female job in a system of white supremacy. And Vonda said she was following the agenda and his silly behind fell into the trap. And I agree that she was following the agenda. What's weird is that I promise you, these men really don't want to work with her now. I promise you. Nobody can really say anything, and she barely can get fired because if they hadn't have done everything that they did, she would have sued ESPN and pulled a real Me Too and just gotten paid and done nothing. But I promise you, no men feel comfortable working with her now. Like, chick, you get too triggered too easily. Like, nobody called out nobody used the word tits. Nobody used the word, baby. Nobody, you know what I'm saying? Nobody brought up anything that was like vulgar and overtly not okay. Well, but when you're playing around in a male environment, you're going to get some level of locker room talk. I mean, it's just everybody can't just be on their guard and just sitting around chewing on their nails afraid of you all the time. I think it's worth saying though, babe, Prince Sama said she doesn't even use her husband's last name. She's not claiming Jalen Rose like that. So
well, yeah, I mean, I think it's hyphenated or something like that, so everyone knows that they're married and everything. But yeah, she doesn't, when she comes on the air, she really doesn't use it. So back to your point, Irene, about the, really, you didn't convey it like this, but kind of having some thick skin and this locker room banter, right? So, excuse me, and this is kind of ironic because I was dealing with a situation like this today, with something that transpired last week between colleagues and friends, right? And so there was a conversation that took place in my office with, some colleagues and friends, and the male female dynamic is murky, right? And sometimes when males are saying things and in a strong opinionated way, it could come across as domineering or misogynistic and just, really taken there, right? And I'm not discounting the fact that those things may happen, from time to time. But in this situation, it was really kind of difficult because, they're friends and colleagues, right? And so, there's a lot of tongue in cheek and everything. And so, you give it to me, I give it back and everything. And the situation just kind of, unbeknownst to me, there was some prior history, right? And situation ended up being quite worse than it actually was. And the female was taken aback by this other person's rhetoric towards her, and felt that I was pretty much collaborating by not saying anything to him about their conversation. And again, it gets kind of complicated and complex when, these individuals know each other, they're friends, and they're talking, and it's tongue in cheek. It's like for men, it's a really delicate situation. You know what I mean? It's like, we don't want to be Captain Save a woman, right? And then it's like, oh, well, I don't need you to do this and everything. Especially in a situation where we're just having some, banter and everything, and having some dialogue about, okay, why does this occur? And it turns into a situation where I felt, attacked. And I'm saying this honest and earnestly. I never want anyone to feel unsafe in my presence or anybody else, right? And so I say this to my students and everybody all the time. I'm not perfect. I'm tongue in cheek. I may say some things that you feel are inappropriate, and I would hope that you could come to me and let me know so I can apologize to everybody else, because it's not about, it's about the way you were made to feel. You know what I mean?
No, it's not. I don't agree with that. Nope.
No.
No,
And
I'm just saying.
Let me finish. It's about the way you were made to feel, right? And I get that, but I also say, okay, so what is the big picture, especially when we're working together? So I'm not going to discount your feelings, but at the same time, if we're having, friendly banter and back and forth and everything, it's not like there's a ganging up and an attack and just on you. But again, I do want to understand and hear where you're coming from, because obviously it matters to you. So I just can't discount that. I just can't say, okay, put on your big girl panties and everything and just suck it up. I can't say that.
Well, right? You can't, but that's what I'm saying is that you're in an environment, and so many people work in environments, like everybody, I hate the term like feel safe. Like if somebody's not punching you in the face or threatening you in some kind of way, like threatening physical harm, or I don't like this ideology of like, you need to feel safe. Like, no, this is the real world. What makes people feel unsafe are comments like what he made. And we have some ladies in the chat. Goddess Rain said that men should always be respectful toward women. Angelica Walker seconded that. And I agree that men should be respectful toward women. The thing is, I don't think he said anything disrespectful. Like I said, had he been like, oh, your tits, or, had he been like, I've been in conversations on panels where men refer to women as pussy. And I really find that very disrespectful. I'm like, we're people, we're not pussy. Do you know what I mean? Like, if y'all want to talk amongst yourselves like that, that's fine. But I feel like that I don't like hearing us referred to as that. That's not what we are. We're people. So I understand that, but he didn't make a comment like that. He just said, you could switch gears with me anytime. It was cheesy. It was dumb. It was some guy stuff. He wasn't obviously really shooting his shot unless he doesn't know her at all. You know what I mean? Because he knows that she's married. I think he just was being corny. Even if he was like lightweight hitting on her, that would have been unprofessional in and of itself, but it wouldn't have been a Me Too moment. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, we don't want it to get to the point where people just can't talk. There's a big difference between just talking casually to somebody, especially on a sports show.
Well, that's
with a male audience, and you're just kind of,
Yeah, that's my point. I mean, there's a really slippery slope for we men. You know what I mean? Because it's like the incident in my office. We were having just a casual conversation, and he asked, her about a situation, and it was specific towards women. I'm just asking, like what, and it wasn't just like, to me, but again, this is me, like inflammatory or anything like that. But again, I'm not the one who felt that way. But it's so crazy because it's like I've been in situations where, again, women could give it too. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, we're bantering, and it's all fun and game until someone's feelings get hurt, right? And it's like, well, wait a minute, we were just here and now. And again, it's a lot of times it's unbeknownst to us. Again, let us know. And again, I didn't find out about this situation until like damn near, a week. This happened a week, a week ago. And so I'm just like, again, maybe you have to get to a place where you could calm down and everything, which I understand. We conversed about that, and I'm all well and good with that. But to me, things fester. And again, we know your listening audience. We know that there's a dynamic, right, between men and women. We don't get everything right. The way, even we disagree on some things, but there's an overstanding. There's an understanding. Like, okay, all right, I see your positionality and everything. Doesn't mean I necessarily have to agree, and doesn't mean that my feelings may not be hurt. But to me, the big picture is, let's look at this person. Would they intentionally try to do something like that?
I don't have time to coddle people, because that's how you breed weak people. Like, you need to get into the real world. Everybody's not going to be super understanding and considerate of your feelings. So when you have that expectation, you're not going to be able to function in reality, where some people don't give two craps. Do you know what I mean? So I think sometimes you have to be an adult. I think some things work for children, like when we're little kids and we're teaching them to care about other people and stuff like that. But once you get into adulthood, you should not have the expectation that everybody has to care about how you feel, because everybody's not going to care about how you feel. And
I concur with that.
Weak people. That's what is wrong with these, new generation of confused people who get triggered every time, you don't give them a sticker, is because they've been given the expectation that everybody should care or be nice to them or something. But God's reign said that what did God's reign say? Hold on, you said a few things. God's reign said it was uncalled for terminology that he used. It was wrong. I wouldn't want some dude saying that to my daughter. I don't care how old she is. And stop making excuses for improper behavior. It's wrong. So this is what I will say. I will say that I wouldn't want a dude saying that to my daughter either, but I will also tell my daughter, because I believe there's like female responsibility and stuff, okay? So if you are working in a sports atmosphere with all men doing something that's geared toward men, and 99% of the women in the field are there to be eye candy, literally, you're going to put yourself in a position where something like that's going to be said. It doesn't mean that you can be touched, like I said, vulgar words like tits or pussy and stuff like that are going to be said to you, but you're going to hear something in that environment that is going to be masculine in nature. Okay. It's unavoidable. But just like, sometimes I wear low cut shirts. I'm going to hear something about my cleavage. Does that make it appropriate for things to be highly inappropriate? No. But it's just like if I put on makeup and I go out and look my best, I'm going to hear something about my physical appearance. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think women, we have to recognize we're going to hear something. This idea that we can just place ourselves in any situation and wear anything, and like nobody is ever going, it's like we're never going to hear anything, other than sweet words and utter respect. Like, we have to function in the real world too. Well, and we also have to separate what are egregious acts from what are just people being people.
Well, speaking of separating, I think, and again, like I said, I just don't see it, and I'm not trying to cape for anybody. I hold everybody accountable, but I think there's some, and again, I don't know if this applies to those of who make comments, but I think there's such a disdain for him. You know what I mean? So when there's a disdain for a person, there's nothing that person could do and or say without there's being some type of distinction from your actual hate and dislike of them. You know what I mean? So let's take President Trump there's really nothing, and he did say grab him by the pussy, right? But I mean, outside of that, and he's done a lot of other, egregious things. We know this, right? And so I'm not capable for, President Trump either. But I'm just saying, using him for an example, if he did something, right, and because people have this visceral reaction for him, they would just automatically say, that's bad because I don't like him. And I think we just need to be honest with ourselves again. And I'm really trying to be objective here, and I'm trying to just really deconstruct, was this, were they talking about, this was like some type of phallus, relationship with Schiff. I mean, I really am. I mean,
okay, y'all, he is the good cop, and I am clearly the bad cop.
I don't think I'm not really trying. I mean, I don't think I'm an unintelligent person, but I'm really trying to see. I mean, I've looked at it, and I even think he made a motion like the gear shift and everything. So I'm just really trying to see why and how was it so egregious. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I was asking God's Reign. God's Reign, that's what I was trying to ask you earlier. Like, what about the phrase made it egregious to you? Carl's opinion said young people get apartments with 2 refrigerators for sticking on all of the gold stars. That's true, though. They really do get multiple refrigerators. And thank you for the super chat, Carl's opinion. I'm trying to like, okay, Midtown Pookie agrees with you. He's saying that you're speaking facts with regard to that. I
mean, I'm really asking a question. I mean, we're not going to open the phone lines because it's too late. And I said that we were going to do this week, but it's been a long week. But we'll do it soon. Again, I'm talking for your own channel. But hopefully, we'll get around to that. But I'm really asking a question, not rhetorically, like, just give me some specifics, like, because to me, it's based on a lot of opining, right? It's our opinion that it was inappropriate. And again, opinions are like, those things we sit on, right? Some are clean and some are not. And I'm really trying to see, really and truly. Again, I've had some friends and they're just like, yeah, it was inappropriate, but they say they also admit, I don't like him. You know what I mean? Did I tell you I don't like him? So I don't think there's a dissociation of what he actually did and their actual dislike and disdain for him.
I had to reach into the dirtiest recesses of my mind. And like I said, I could give some classes on freakiness. And I really had to reach far deep to figure out. And the only thing I could think of was like penis, stick shift. But like, I'm like, you have to really be looking for that. You know what I mean?
That's
like,
my point.
I have guys casually hit on me all the time. Like, as a woman, I just feel like as women, men hit on you all the time. And there's like variations of that. And sometimes men just make comments, especially when you're in an all male environment and it's not even them hitting on you. It's just they're being guys. He's a guy talking to other guys about sports that guys are playing. And here you are. Something's going to be said that you're not going to like. Like I said, it'd be different to me, like I said, if he talked about her vagina or her breasts, if he overtly was like, hey, babe, let me take you out to dinner tonight. I could see that. Like, I would be like, okay, now, come on now. Like, you're doing a lot for us to be on.
You utilize the term, right? Let's shift gears here. He said you can shift gears from any time. So if you're using that term,
yes, exactly.
If you're using that term, and if you think there's some type of, phallus implications within that and everything, if you have an issue with it, then why are you starting off the conversation with that terminology? You know what I mean? Why would you? And so, again, I'm not capable for LaVar Ball. I don't dislike Molly, but I just like these overall implications, especially when we're talking about black males. And again, if we don't look at the greater implications, then what are we doing here? Because again, I've seen people on that show casually flirt with her. She's not a hard to look at young lady, right? And yeah, she's on that show. If she was a chicken head, right? If she was a mud duck, I don't think she'd be on that show. And that's not discounting. I mean, she may have other merits and everything. She, may have some background in sports and everything. I don't know her, her vita, right? But again, I have to side with Irene. Definitely, her attraction, definitely helped. And they had a sister on there before. She was attractive, and she's doing some other things on SportsCenter, right? So yes, I mean, let's be clear. You know, especially in those situations, again, and I'm not discounting the women, you know, for their accolades and, you know, their
Oh
knowledge.
my gosh, they smack each other on the butt in sports. Like,
But I'm
what
not saying.
kind
I
of
mean,
environment do you think you're
listen,
in
when you
right
look at
now? It's like,
ESPN, when you look at ESPN, you look at Fox News. There's a lot more women, you know, whether they're sportscasters, whether they're analysts. So we've seen a proliferation of women in sports spaces, right? And so that's to me that's not an anomaly. But when you, to your point, most of them are not mud ducks. You know what I mean? They're, you know, whether whatever affinity group they belong to, right? Whatever ethnicity, they're not just, you know, just butt ugly.
no, they're there to be cute for the male audience of the show. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't like all the fakery about it. It's a sports environment. You have men running around, running into each other, bumping each other in the chest, smacking each other with hockey pucks, little girls half on the sidelines, dancing half naked. They're smacking each other on the butt. Then you have some commentators commenting on all this. And you want it to be like an office, it's just not going to happen. Like,
Well,
girl,
like I
stop.
said,
That's not the environment you're in.
I'm not going to dismiss the acumen that some of these women have, because some of these women are really good analysts, and you know, they studied the sport or they played it. You know, they've been around the sports for years, and so they actually
Then
do.
they should know what environment they're in.
And they
And
do,
stop
right?
trying to
And they
treat it
live
like it's
to
a
it. So
church
these
or a
women that I'm
school
talking
or an
about,
office.
these women that I'm talking about have been in locker rooms and everything, and they had to undergo a lot more than somebody saying that I'll switch gears with you anytime, right? And so, again, I'm not being quite as harsh towards these women as you are, just saying that they're eye candy. But I will say that they're
Well, they
not
are eye candy.
mud
I'm
ducks
not
either.
saying they're not intelligent or have nothing to add to the conversation. I'm saying there's a reason they're not ugly. They're pandering to a male audience. And one of the things that goes with sports are cute women to look at. Like, that's just part of the sports thing. Every single sport men play, there are cute women sitting there, and these guys are commenting on like it's just one big thing. So the thing is that you're going to hear male stuff, and that if they're smacking each other on the butt and women are jumping around and doing little dances half naked and men are knocking each other over and being bloody and getting concussions and stuff, like, what kind of environment do you think you're in? What kind of conversations are going to happen there? It's not church, it's not a school, it's not an office. This is sports. So if you really know about sports and you're there for it, be there for it and stop messing up the flow. And
Yeah,
having,
but
like, who's going to want to
mean,
work with her if you can't speak freely in a professional sports way? Because sports professional and real professional are very different, right? Because you got to be
yeah,
what's going on in the game.
but at the same time, there's going to be a level of civility, regardless of the sports talk or any type of talk. So there's still going to be that. And again, I'm not saying that didn't occur within LaVar Ball's situation. I just think that people can't distinguish that the fact they just loathe him. They just have a disdain for him, and anything comes out of his mouth, they're going to, you know, they're going to put more on top of it. And again, I think that's really dangerous because it clouds our judgment. And for the next person that comes along and may say that, like, you're right. I think people are going to. I mean, already in this environment, myself included, we have to be men specifically on pins and needles. You know,
But they're not in sports, though. Like, the feminists can't take everything from y'all. This is getting ridiculous. I don't even watch sports.
I mean,
46 says, though, it doesn't seem sexual to me. I think this is triggered whites who are still angry at LaVar Ball for being himself. They haven't forgiven him for not thanking Trump after the incident with his son. That could play a part in it. It could be part that they were looking for a reason to be able to punish him, and part that she would have sued the heck out of ESPN if they didn't cater to her whining.
Well, listen, LaVar Ball is an unapologetic black man. He's married to a white woman.
Okay.
I think he's a decent father. I don't agree with everything he's done as far as his sons, but again, he loves his sons, right? He wants to put them in the best position, right? And again, I don't think anyone would argue that he's a bad father, right? And so again, no one controls LaVar Ball. He's unhinged, you know. He's on his own strings, and so he'll let anybody have it. You know what I mean? You never. He's unpredictable, and that's why he was good to have on the show. You know what I mean? He's good ratings. You know, because you never know what's going to come out of his mouth. And so let's not play like, you know, there was no interest convergence in having LaVar Ball on your show those times and on Fox Sports when he was on there. I mean, come on. And so, you know, people love to see people that they hate. Let's just be real about it. There, you know, that draws attention. And so when this whole thing went down, like I said, I saw it and I was just like, okay, all right. And like I said, you know, like it was said here, she was triggered. She was like, hey, let's stay on. I'm like, well, he just basically said what you said.
Yeah. So somebody in the chat was saying, Ryan James said you could have read his tone as he said it. Ball didn't mean anything by it. He was in a heated argument with the other guy, then took that snippet of him agreeing to shift gears. And then Ryan James said she was flustered, caught having dirty thoughts on cam. I think her mind went to the dirty place because she probably thinks all black men want her. And so when he made that, she took it to the dirtiest place it could go. It might have been more reflective of her than anything. I think, honestly, that he was really just making a joke out of shifting gears. She's a woman, so the joke had a masculine air to it. But I don't think it was meant to be lewd, because I know that the God's Reign said it was the way he said it. It was sexual. Stop making excuses. Why are we okaying vulgar behavior? I mean, define vulgar, because I don't find that vulgar. There's some things I find calling women pussies, like pussy, I find that vulgar. I don't find what he said vulgar. You know, I mean, I find, you know, guys smacking each other on the butt, telling them, you know, each other good job. I think that's weird. That's like borderline vulgar. I find, you know, a lot of things vulgar. I don't know. Like when I think vulgarity, that's like a strong word, y'all. Well, like God's Reign, I don't want to dismiss your thought process, but vulgar is a strong word. Like all the things I can think of that are vulgar, I'm not going to say right now. Okay. That's how vulgar they are. I'm not even going to bring them up because I can think of some nasty, vulgar things.
Yeah, but when you have a disdain for somebody, and again, I don't know if this is the case for this person or not, but you don't like them, anything that they say and or do is going to be vulgar or just put you off. You know what I mean? And so, again, a lot of it is really when this you know, ambivalent, right? A lot of it is really interpretation. It really is. It's how you took that, you know? And so if something is just like, you know, so ambivalent and it can be taken, you know, a multiplicity of ways, and I say, oh, you said that. I'm like, no, that's not how I meant that. So I don't know what you're thinking, but I meant it like this. And see, this is what I mean about men. We don't have that option currently in this space to say, no, that's not what I meant, and to say what we meant, you know, well, I felt this way. And again, kind of like going back to what you're saying. Again, I'm not discounting the feelings, but yeah, I mean, your feelings, you're probably in them right now. But I'm, you know what I mean? I'm not Drake right now. You know, I'm not trying to call you Keisha. So what are we saying? And so it's really scary. So to me, this whole incident has greater implications. And again, I'm really I hear, you know, your audience saying it was vulgar, it was sexual and everything. And I just wanted to know, like, give me an example. So we're throwing out these terms, these adjectives, right? But it's like, what? Specifically, what? And so if you think this was kind of like, you know, related to, you know, some type of phallus or penis or something like that.
You thinking of black penis. I'm gonna tell you, like, I promise you, like, that had to be on her mind. I didn't even think of it as penis at first, but if you're lusting after that, like, it'll come to your mind. Like, she could just be a freak. Sometimes we impose our freakiness on others. That's what really, I think that's really what happened here.
You know,
I don't think he was literally trying to hit on her at all. They're both married. I think he was just making a guyish comment, and she chose to make it like somebody wanted her, and nobody really wanted her like that. And she flexed. But now I promise you, none of these men are comfortable with her. Nobody's going to be comfortable working with her. You don't want to have to, like, nobody's going to want to talk to her, because you don't want to have to worry about being the next one that hits the chopping block because she gets in her feelings over something minor.
Well, but that's the current society right now. I mean,
and you know what it does is it doesn't help us as women, though, baby. It hurts us as women, because then when we need to be heard, everybody will be so desensitized by the crying, you know, the boy who cried wolf scenario, that the women who need to get action aren't going to be able to get action, because people are going to be disenchanted with women popping up, getting people fired, and freaking out over every little solitary thing. Like, there are women out here who are really being violated, who really have problems. And these kind of things make it difficult for them to get the justice that they need, because they're going to be lumped in, and people are going to be side-eyeing it because of chicks like her, who get people completely blackbarred from basically their work. Something that they're doing because they don't want to be told, I'll switch gears with you.
How can men deal with that? How could men in leadership roles deal with this current phenomenon? This is a reality.
They could have not, because there was a bunch of men that did that to him. So the men could have handled that differently. Like, just real talk. The men could have handled that differently. There was a bunch of men who got together and decided to blackball him things. So I think this is a lot of male enabling. Even in that TMZ little clip that we watched, it was a man sitting there, the disrespectful comments. Men are in charge of everything. So y'all can stop co-signing this crap. That would be amazing. At the end of the day, women are not the ones in the majority of positions of power. Women aren't running ESPN. Women aren't running police departments. Women aren't running corporations like that. Men are doing that. So men are essentially co-signing this behavior. If you couldn't just get somebody fired because you didn't like what he said, that when it's that minor, like I said, when it's not truly vulgar, when it's not truly disrespectful, when nobody's really laid hands on you, if you couldn't just be like, oh my gosh, you know, I don't feel safe because he told me I look pretty this morning. If that wasn't an option, then women would stop doing it, and we could focus on women who are actually being violated and making sure we make those laws strong for them. Like actual violations of a person's person, actual harassment, because that does happen. But this really, I feel like it really minimizes real things that and real challenges women face, and a lot of unhealthy normalized behavior by just picking up on regular just guys being guys in a sports environment. Like, for real, he can't just be a guy in a sports environment. Like, they're already checking themselves, because you know they talk a lot more. Like, if it was only men allowed to listen to ESPN and women could never see or hear it, it would be a whole different show.
Well, I know that's the case for the barbershop. So brothers in the barbershop, we talk, it gets pretty gutter, right? And sometimes it'll even get vulgar. But what will happen in a black barbershop, especially, as soon as a woman comes in there, the whole vibe changes. We don't speak the same way we speak once a woman is present. That just doesn't happen. And if that happens in your barbershop, then your barbershop is a little different. But that does not take place. I mean, the whole thing shift. And it may be the same thing for, a beauty shop, right? When, sisters in there talking and chopping up and everything. And if a brother comes in there, maybe that changes the whole vibe as well. I mean, so these things happen, right? But I'm just concerned because I do agree that, if a man and a woman are just having, friendly conversation and banter, and then, if a woman gets in her feelings, and then it becomes an HR issue. And again, it's like, I want to, hear you out and everything, but it's like, really? Every single time? And it's like, at some point, we are going to have a tougher constitution. And again, but this whole safe space and everything, I think it should be that way. But at the same time, let's look at the whole scenario. But oftentimes we just get caught up in our own feelings, and so it's a dangerous situation. And I think this conversation is going to lead to hopefully some greater conversations. But there's like no immediate answers, right? There's people in the chat who are saying, they feel, that he was out of pocket, and there's some people that feel like it was a stretch, it was her imagination, whatever the case may be, like I keep just reifying this, for Black men, these tropes are going to remain the same. They're going to remain the same. So these type of things don't help. And again, I'll be the first one. If I thought that, he said something lewd, and I'm like, bro, you can't say that. That's out of pocket. You know what I mean? I've had some friends that say some lewd stuff. You know what I mean? I have nothing.
God's Reign said exactly to your barbershop comment, when a woman is present, the crude comments are supposed to cease. And one of my moderators, Vonda Harris, said that she agrees, but she didn't find LaVar's comment rude. This is what I will say, the God's Reign. I agree with that. But here is my exception, and that's why I keep bringing up the environment, okay? If you choose to go work in an environment that is 99% male, where it's a sports environment. And like, I can say this again, I just need to say, because I need to paint the picture, because they're not going to, then women can't work in that environment. How about that? Because that's what it's going to be. It's a sports environment, right? There are guys, like I said, that are pounding into each other, giving each other concussions, smacking each other on the butt, knocking each other over, jumping up in the air, smacking chests. Like, it is like primal almost. Women on the sidelines, half naked, jumping around. And then you have the commentators who are talking about all of this stuff and what went on in the game and stuff like that. If they can't be guys in an environment that is really for guys more than anybody, then women don't need to be working there then, because they're already toning it down. That's what his point about the barbershop was, is that guys actually talk really much worse than that. And the fact that none of those things are being said means they're already scaling it back pretty far because there's a woman present, right? But there's going to be some guy talk still, some level of guy talk, because they are men and it's a man's environment. So then what are the options? Should women just stay out of men's environments and let them have that environment so that they can enjoy their sports and their commentators can comment without the burden of feeling like I've got to literally stop and think about everything I say? Because anything I say, even though I'm already scaling it back, because we will be in here talking about sex and, how women look and all of this, but we're not doing any of that. But I'm now going to scale this back even further to the point where it's going to become like a church meeting news show. I feel like crude comments stop around women in every kind of environment until a woman places herself in a male environment. Like if you walk into the men's locker room, the men will probably scale it back, but you might hear something. It's only like reasonable. So I think that there's a lot.
Might see something too.
Yeah, you might see something too. And that's the thing about, you know, and Nyla was saying this, and I think she made a really good point. She was saying, you know, women did not used to be in male spaces. So now we are exposed to a lot. Because she was saying this to me, you know, complaining about men calling women pussy, because I really hate that. And she was like, the thing is, Irene, I don't really think they mean anything by it like that. I kind of do. But she still made a good point. And her point was that we are privy to conversations that men have and ways that men talk that in the past we would never have been there at all. So we would have never heard these things. And so we are hypersensitive and we feel some kind of way because they're just being guys. But because we are in their spaces now and everything is so co-ed now, we want as women for them to erase every kind of way that they are because we're present everywhere. We're omnipresent now. So what space is safe for them just to be guys? And if we're excluded, then we're going to complain about being excluded. But if we're not excluded and we choose to go into environments like sports commentary and be in the grit with the guys and what they're doing, then we can be respected with the understanding that they're still going to be men, and it's not going to be like every other kind of environment where we would expect 100% checking of that at the door. Carl's opinion said, equality means equality. Men have to talk differently around who? Another equal or a less than equal that needs to be protected. I mean, I can't lie. Thank you for the super chat, Carl's opinion as well. I think that's a valid point. Like, do you want to be equal or do you want somebody to change? Do you know? Well, I'm not looking. First of all, let me say, I want to be equally valued, but I don't think that we're equal in all things. And I don't think women and I don't think men belong in every kind of woman space, because there's a lot of conversation we as women have and men don't belong in those spaces. And I don't think women belong in every men's space. And I think this is a perfect example of why. What do you think about that equality comment, babe? Equality means equality. Men have to talk differently around who? Another equal or another less than equal that needs to be protected. Do you think that's a valid argument?
Well, that becomes the conundrum. That becomes the paradox, because it's such a catch-22, right? So again, just going back to my example, if you're having a conversation and everything and like, hey, we're right here, you know, we're equals and everything, but then all of a sudden I am not your equal. I'm feeling attacked. I am, you know, less than. And it's just a hairy situation, because again, when we listen to a lot of this women's lib rhetoric and everything, and like a lot of these feminists, yo, I could be able to do all this and I could do that and everything. But at the same time, the male has to be the one that gets up if you hear a noise. You know, the man is supposed to protect the woman and actually give his life to protect the women and the children. I mean, these are things that are just ingrained within the fabric of society. And so I hear what he's saying, but again, I don't think really most women want it to be equal. You know what I mean? If they're being honest, you know, when I take a poll of my students and I say, hey, how many of you would like to actually, you know, once you're married and everything, you have children, you know, actually stay at home if you're, you know, if your partner could provide, you know, and have a situation where you could do that, you know. And it is crazy that a lot of those young ladies put their hands up reluctantly. They're looking around like, I'm like, just keep it honest. Like, if you had that opportunity, would you do it? Like, yeah. I mean, if I didn't have to work and everything, and I could stay at home and take care of my children and everything, take care of our children and everything, and he was able to, you know, provide, why wouldn't I do that? And again, they're frowned upon in this current society if they feel that way. And I just don't think that's fair. I mean, these feminists attack these women for having an opinion. And it's so oxymoronic, because they're supposed to be fighting for women to have an opinion, to have the right to choose.
You know
Yeah,
how
but
the
again,
liberals are, babe. It's only the only opinions that are valid opinions are their opinion. Nobody else's opinion is acceptable. Kevin James said stuff like that is why there is so much contention between men and women.
I agree.
Ryan James said it's like women fighting to enlist in the military, but then wanting out the instant she chips in. Now, honestly, I cannot believe that they have women in combat position. I just don't think that we belong in combat position. It's just too much risk. It's too much risk with our cycle every month. It's too much risk with us possibly being pregnant. Why anybody would fight for that is insane to me. I'm still mad about that. I think it's so inappropriate. The real Aaron Collins said the way I see it is she voluntarily goes into men's space and hears something she doesn't like. She doesn't get to get into her feelings.
Yeah.
Pro woman said she just came in. How can Trump admit to locker room talk and grabbing women by the pussy and still say in 1600 Pennsylvania Ave? Because in reality, there are women who will beg a man to grab them in the pussy if she thinks she can get access to his money. There's a group of women that really think that way. And I guess deep down, despite the fake outrage that everybody had, deep down people knew that, so they let it slide. Plus, I don't think he had a competitor. It was either him or Hillary.
Well, he didn't have a competitor.
No, exactly right. He didn't really have, and he doesn't have one this year. It's like the Special Olympics. It's
Cut it
like,
out, Irene.
no, I'm saying.
Wow.
I'm saying this presidential election is like the presidential Special Olympics. It's like a bunch of
Cut it out. You will get letters. That was her. That's her saying that.
Yeah, now you guys know I'm not politically correct at all.
Not,
like I
not
said,
at all.
he's the good cop apparently, and I'm the bad cop. Like I always feel like I'm the bad guy when we're up here, but okay.
No, not at all. That's crazy. But no, I agree with those comments. It's just I just don't know. Like in this current society, it's very scary. Because of the nature, you know, yeah, it's just really really scary. Yes, this is feminist movement, and again, and they hate on so many women who want to be traditionalists and who advocate for traditionalism, and I'm just like, but again, it's a lot of identity politics, right? They're not really looking at they're not really looking out for the best interests of people, of Black people specifically. You're just looking out for their own identity politics, and that gets really scary. And I think this episode kind of like, really encapsulate this type of, identity politics where, something could be taken or misconstrued, and all of a sudden, we're going to become hyper emotional in our feelings and everything, and say, oh, we need to ban him and do these type of things. It's just really scary time. But you look at the flip side of that, right? So Terry Crews, Big Brother and everything could get grabbed, and nothing happens, right? And actually he has to look out for his job, because he'll become, pardon the pun, blackballed. And so, I mean, that's vulgarity. You know what I mean? Somebody grabbing you and doing it in front of everybody. You know what I mean? Really? But again, no one's up in arms about that. You know what I mean? No one's saying anything about that. You don't have Me Too coming out saying anything regarding that incident, right? As a matter of fact, he had to take the complete opposite stand and talk about, how his father was, toxic masculinity. You know what I mean? How his father was toxic and, beat up his mom and everything. He had to take that approach opposed to taking how he was actually the victim in his vulnerability as a Black male, but he couldn't say that because that doesn't fit the narrative. That doesn't fit the identity politics. So again, we're not, like you said, we're not actually out trying to do what's right by people in general, whether it be a male or a woman. We're just out to make sure, it's politics as usual. That was a long pause. You're on mute if you're talking. I don't know what happened, Irene.
Oh, I was talking that whole time.
Yeah, come on, you're a veteran. You gotta have it off of mute.
I'm sorry. I didn't know what you were saying to me. I'm sorry, y'all. I was talking that whole time. I was saying this is indicative. I feel like I was legit talking.
Yeah, to yourself.
I know.
None of us heard you. None of us.
So, what I was saying, y'all, is that I think this is indicative of like a much larger problem. And I'm actually pretty appalled. I think it's very scary. If I were a man, I wouldn't really know how to feel right now that he was banned from all of ESPN shows for that comment. I wish it had been like a truly, truly, truly inappropriate and vulgar comment. Unquestionably so, because it makes the climate like just really, really iffy. And I think it adds insult to injury considering the space that it's in. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe I could understand it more like on a regular news program or something, but like sports commentary, that just seems like really far out there to me. So I guess my final word on this is that, man, we have to do something about these feminists, okay? Because these people they're out here doing the absolute most. And
well, I just want to expand a little bit. I know we're going to get off, but you said the whole, when I brought up Stephen A. Smith and he was talking to Ray Rice and the whole provocation, you said, well, that was stupid to bring that up.
Yeah, that was dumb.
Okay. So take that. I disagree with that, but hear me out. So when the whole Renee Bobbitt, whatever her name, came on, everything, everybody was like, oh yeah, she cut that thing off and da 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 da.
I thought that was insane. Like, man, that's crazy.
But that's you. But everybody else was
anybody
talking about
saying nobody. Are you serious? Nobody saying thought that was okay.
No, I'm not saying that was okay. They were talking about provocation. It was like, oh well, he did this. That's why she did that.
No, not to cut somebody's penis off. You don't cut a part of somebody's body off. You get provoked into chopping off body parts.
They were saying that it was provocation, and it was okay for people to say, well, she cut it off because he did this. It was caping. And so again, I'm just saying that to say this. When we talk about provocation, it's like it can't happen. There's only one side of that coin. I mean, listen, even I was at the store picking up something before I went into the office today, and I overheard a lady said, yeah, my husband, used to pick up, give me flowers and everything. And they used to always ask him, well, what did you do this time? You know what I mean? It's just, it's just wrong. You know what I mean? It's just that, well, you must have done something. You just can't be getting her flowers. You can't just be nice. You must be in the doghouse. And these are the type of sentiments that are still very prevalent. And so it goes back to
my gosh, babe, are you hinting that I'm getting flowers?
See what I mean, fellas?
I'm just saying, I like flowers. You're bringing them up.
Yeah. And no, I'm not. Well, I don't think I'm in a doghouse, but who knows?
No, I could just get flowers without you being in the doghouse.
Absolutely, that's my point. That's my point.
Flowers.
See, yeah, stay focused.
Okay, let me get back. I'm sorry, y'all. I really like flowers, though.
Yes, she does. But yeah, but that's my point, and I just would like to hear what, because that Lorena Bob was like, yeah, he was doing this and everything, and that's became a popular mantra. Yeah, I'll cut you off.
Oh
You do
my
this and
God.
that.
That's how you lose your whole life. Like that could only be a white couple because a black man would kill somebody. She wouldn't be alive to tell the story of having cut his penis off. But I will say this. Cynthia G did a whole video on this and she was not able to find any cases of a black woman doing this. She found all kinds of women doing. We are not cutting off the magic peens. That's what's not going to happen. Those things are going to stay intact no matter how much we hate you. Your head might go, like your literal head might go first. But yeah, I agree. But it's not that I don't think, I think it was a stupid thing to say on television. It was a dumb move. I think when a man hits a woman like a man, the dumbest thing you could do is sit on to. That's something for your private conversation over dinner. So that's what I mean by that was stupid. That was not well played. That doesn't compare to what LaVar Ball did, like at all whatsoever. That was just
No, I'm not comparing. I'm not comparing that at all. What he did. I'm saying that's why Stephen A. Smith, butt cheeks got tight, and he looked at him.
Oh,
like,
that's why he was looking at him like, oh,
yeah,
you're doing the wrong thing now. Oh, but the way he looked at him, I was like, gosh, if you play it off, he was in shock.
Yeah, because he knows when he made that statement about provocation that he called hell, that they suspended him and everything because them white women came after his neck. And they were like, oh, what are you trying to say? If I do this and everything, I'm supposed to. He never said that. But
man,
again,
this is the power of Me Too, though. Like an actual woman got beat up and he commented on it and kept his job. This woman got in just a random comment that wasn't even explicitly sexual in nature. And he was banned from ESPN. This is the power that women have at this point and that men have given over to them. Because like I said, men are in charge of all this stuff. Y'all are in charge of this. But it's really white men that are in charge of this. But here's the thing. Remember, they're trying to remake Greek society. This is going to get me off into something else. And I know we're over time.
don't go there.
I'm just saying they're trying to remake their Greek society, babe. And so that is why because it's really white men that are in these positions of power. That's why they're co-signing this sort of behavior, because it helps to emasculate men. And so they are co-signing the whole Me Too movement and all this. They're willing to do things like blackball people from ESPN or cause people to lose their job or ruin people's careers, not because they care about women, because they don't, but because they want to position people in a way that creates a society where men are heavily emasculated and closer to being women than they are men. And so okay, that's my final word on that. That's what I really think the agenda is. That's what I really think is behind this.
It's not going to be your final word because here's the thing. I'm not going to get into that realm because that's your realm and your realm solely. Because you have a lot of fans when you go down that rabbit hole. But I will say this, that you have Coke and Pepsi, right? And of course, they're owned by the same entity.
Wait, Coke and Pepsi are owned by the same entity?
Yes.
No way, are they?
Yes.
I did not know that.
And so when you have these situations, she's gonna Google it, right, to make sure I'm right.
I'm not gonna Google. Oh my goodness.
But when you have all these things, same thing with like PepsiCo. Of course, they own a lot of different, fast food restaurants and everything, and some of them are supposed to be at odds and competition with each other, but they're within the same vein. What am I saying? I'm saying that for the feminist movement, of course, men help really, structure that and fund that. Again, the cause of further bifurcation is in particular within the Black community. So again, you look at the Me Too movement, Yeah, I mean, you may have women in the front, on the front lines and everything, but again, you're going to have some men behind it, support and everything, again, to cause a further bifurcation. Now, whatever the bifurcation is, Irene just alluded to, the emasculation and everything, which has a lot of merit to it, but again, this is not something that's just altruistic. That's never the case. They're never just looking out for the goodwill of women, and women are being treated this way and being raped and all that. No, they could care less about that because most of the men are doing it are those individuals themselves. So they don't give a crap about those women. But again, it creates this further bifurcation between the entities. And if we don't understand that, then I don't know what we're on. Because again, if it was truly, again, altruistic and everything, the whole Terry Crews situation, when you have men that are being forced, being raped and everything, they would have been comfortable to be part of this movement. That's not the case. And so you have to ask yourself, why is that? Because that's the intentionalities of it, right? That's the intentions of it. And so it's not intended to be, this wholesome altruistic thing that's going to help people that have been victim of, sexual assaults. It's to help promote a certain political agenda, these identity politics. And again, we have to be very mindful of those things.
I agree. Sarah, with that said, y'all, we're going to get out of here. But thank you all for joining us this Friday night, wherever you are. And we will talk to y'all later.
All right, y'all. Peace.